in jail before he was released. So I told Sue Montgomery about this inner capacity as a Gazette's justice reporter on December 6th of 2012. I wanted her to report about the cover-up and denial. I wanted her to report about the Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel in an attempt to conceal these things. Of course she didn't. I'm just going to check the camera to see if it's still running. Yes, it is, and we still got plenty of time left. Okay, so we're coming up for 18 minutes of recording time. That means we got about 12 minutes left. So getting back to things, Sue Montgomery, as she had done in the past, refused to report on a very, very newsworthy story about how her religious community, the Unitarian Universalist Church, had hired a Montreal lawyer from a major corporate law firm, Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors is a major Canadian law firm. It's got about 500 lawyers from coast to coast, or at least it did at the time. The whole idea was to intimidate me into taking down blog posts about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell, Richard Buell, and also to intimidate me and prevent me from blogging about other Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists, which I knew of some at the time, but for strategic, tactical reasons did not blog about. I like to keep a few things in reserve. She absolutely refused. So then she tried to enter politics. She tried to be an NDP candidate in Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce area. When I became aware of that, I protested outside the NDP riding office while she was, trying to be the NDP candidate in Montreal. She was not chosen as the candidate. Another person was, so that was the end of that story. That was in 2015, I believe. Then, in 2017, in the summer, or actually even before summer, it was late spring of 2017, it came to my attention that Valerie Plante, the leader of Project Montreal, was trying to recruit Sue Montgomery as her star candidate for mayor of Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce borough. When I became aware of this, I knew that I had to do something. I knew that there's no way that I could just stand by and watch as Sue Montgomery was potentially elected as the mayor of Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce borough, because I knew that if she was elected, she would almost certainly abusively misuse her power and influence as mayor to try and shut down my protest outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal. She'd been involved in the past. That's something I forgot to mention. In addition to refusing to report on stories, she involved herself in efforts to shut down this protest. And she was even successful to some degree. She and other church members, most notably Reverend Diane Roller, the minister of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, essentially filed affidavits with the police claiming to fear for their safety, seeking a restraining order against me. So they thought it was called an 810. I contested it in court. I tried to make it clear to the judge that nobody's lives or safety was in danger. I was very peaceful. At that point, I'd been protesting for 8 or 9 years and nobody'd been hurt. I'd never threatened anyone. On the contrary, I'd actually been assaulted and threatened by some Montreal Unitarians. So I made it clear to the judge that I didn't pose a threat to anyone's physical safety, for sure. But she nonetheless gave them the restraining order, the 810. So I was forced to sign what's called a peace order that essentially kept me away from the Unitarian Church of Montreal for 1 full year. The Unitarian Church of Montreal believed that this would be permanent, that it could be extended, and that was the end of my protest. But I just patiently waited. Even as I walked out of the courtroom, I said, thanks for the holiday, because I made it clear, I'll be back. You just gave me a year holiday from protesting, but I'll be back once it's over. And that's exactly what I did. When the peace order ended, when it was over, little slip there, I came back and I resumed my protest, just as I'm resuming my protest now after being falsely accused of criminal harassment. I haven't spoken about that yet. So anyway, that was in 2007, 2008. Sue Montgomery was directly involved in that. Sue Montgomery, I saw her with her head inside police cars talking to police officers when I'm protesting, obviously trying to get them to ticket me or arrest me, to do something to shut down this protest against Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse that includes pedophilia and rape. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, and it's right here on this picket sign. In 2014, late 2014, I'd say October, November of 2014, so before she sought to be the NDP candidate for Côte-de-Neige Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Sue Montgomery, along with another journalist, co-created the Being Raped Never Reported hashtag. It was essentially a hashtag about how women who've been raped don't report rape for various reasons, usually out of fear of the consequences of reporting rape. Very legitimate goal, a very legitimate cause. Unfortunately, I knew that Sue Montgomery had been aiding and abetting the cover-up and denial of pedophilia and rape since at least 2012, to say nothing of earlier, because my protests, even though I didn't have pedophilia and rape on the picket signs, were about clergy abuse and included clergy sexual abuse, and clergy sexual abuse includes pedophilia and rape. So Sue Montgomery, if she had any brains, would have understood that my protest included protesting against pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, and also the cover-up and denial of pedophilia and rape. She certainly would have seen these picket signs that said Unitarian Universalist misuse blasphemy law to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape, because those picket signs exist since the middle of 2012. Very soon after, I was falsely accused of blasphemous libel by Stikeman Elliott and the UUA. I created this picket sign, or one's very much like it. This is an updated new version, but it's essentially the same thing. You know, like after a while the ink, you know, gets a little faded, so the original picket signs got replaced with these ones, but they said exactly the same thing. So Sue Montgomery would have seen these picket signs in 2012, 2013, 2014. You know, she had ample opportunity to know about it and to report on it, which she didn't, before I asked her in December of 2012 to actually report the story, and recorded that on video, so I had video evidence of her refusing to report the story. Also video evidence that she had no fear of me, because she had claimed to fear for her safety. I was standing right next to her when I asked her the question, and I asked her in a typical, you know, calm manner, maybe a little snarky, but she didn't show the slightest fear of me in December 2012. Didn't show the slightest fear of me in March of 2018, by the way, and didn't show the slightest fear of me last Sunday when I was protesting outside the church, and she came along and got in my face a little bit. So anyway, getting back to things, I maybe lost my train of thought there a little bit. Yes, the being raped never reported. So this sign, it says, helpless children of being raped by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Sunday school teachers. But the Gazette's retired, in quotation marks, justice reporter, in quotation marks, Sue Montgomery, never reported the UUA's misuse of blasphemy law and clergy abuse cover-up legal bullying. So this sign, or one very much like it, was displayed during protests soon after I became aware of the Being Raped Never Reported hashtag campaign. There was an earlier version that I basically replaced with this one, just to make it more accurate and less questionable. The first one spoke about preteen children being raped by Unitarian Universalist ministers and Sunday school teachers, and it's accurate enough, but someone could quibble over things. So I just decided to say helpless children, leave the age out of it. So that's it. These picket signs were displayed outside a fundraising event for Being Raped Never Reported. In fact, I was standing there protesting when bailiff walked up to me and handed me another cease and desist demand letter. This time from Mark Banty, Montreal media lawyer who normally works for the media, such as the Gazette, and it accused me of libeling Sue Montgomery when I was doing no such thing. So basically, I made it very, very clear to Mark Banty that I absolutely was not libeling Sue Montgomery. I made it very, very clear to him that every single phrase that he pretended was a libelous statement was in fact very truthful and supported by evidence. It's even more truthful now and supported by more evidence now, thanks to more evidence of Sue Montgomery's involvement in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up and denial. But in any case, he was, again, trying to get me to take down blog posts about Sue Montgomery, her involvement in the cover-up and denial of pedophilia and rape and so on in the church. Same kind of thing. She obviously wanted this to disappear. I did no such thing. I didn't remove so much as a comma from any of the blog posts. They're still there. There's plenty new ones. So anyway, I made it clear to Mark Banty and Sue Montgomery that if they formally withdrew the false accusation of libel, I would forgive Sue Montgomery for falsely accusing me of libel, and I would give her a clean slate. And there were very good reasons for doing that. One of them being, I wanted her to become an ally instead of an enemy, and to report on the newsworthy stories about Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse, cover-up and denial. Of course, she didn't. So that was in 2014. I should mention that when they ignored that generous offer of forgiveness, I protested outside the Gazette's editorial offices, and later in December of 2014 and in January of 2015, I protested outside the Gazette with this picket sign, not the exact one, earlier versions, and an earlier version of this picket sign. So these signs were displayed outside the Gazette's editorial offices, or ones very much like them, and some other signs, in December of 2014 and January 2015. Interestingly enough, Sue Montgomery was offered a buyout by Post Media News in February. So, less than 3 months after she falsely accused me of libel, basically persuaded the